And now we will open it up to the Sangha of the United States, to all of you for your own Dharma sharing. Thank you.
Please only unmute whoever is going to speak. Unmute yourself and say your name, bowing in from wherever. Thank you. Elena bowing out.
This is Dave from North Carolina and Virginia. I don't have a whole lot right now, except I deeply appreciate everything that the Miami Sangha has just shared with us in this practice. And I'm really deeply appreciating the opportunity for the whole National Sangha to come together like this. I just reflecting on how nice it is, even though it's, you know, the weird little way that it is. It's so nice to be able to connect with everybody and be able to feel more connected with everybody, more so than maybe when we were just seeing each other once or twice a year. And being able to practice together, even though, you know, I have my Buddha here and other people have their Buddhas here and there, and you know, so we're doing our little thing from our own little spaces. And I really resonate a lot with several of the things that were shared a little while ago. And like Teo, I have been maybe needing to go more towards the rest and heal aspect of things during the past few months. I have continued to work, and I am working from home primarily. So, you know, the resting and healing has to fit in around also still needing to work and actually be on all manner of different Zoom meetings and so forth, and doing online trainings and just a whole mess of stuff. And kind of the whole world is dealing with a whole mess of stuff. And it's so nice to, again, be able to come together and reconnect with each other over this practice and these tools. And remember, you know, there is so much value in just going to our cushion and touching base with things like the 5 wonderful precepts, and you know, just coming back to the practice, touching base with the practice. I have been doing a lot of reading and studying myself. That's been one of the advantages of being mostly at home all the time, is being able to touch base with more reading and studying. But that also I can become too much caught up in my head too. So, you know, it's so important to find that balance of study and practice. And of course, that balance changes depending on what's going on in the world. So, you know, all of us, I think, have been thrown rather a bit out of balance recently. But so anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Ted bowing in from Connecticut. Really nice to see everybody. And I really want to thank the Miami Sangha for the content of what was shared today. Really, really helpful stuff. So it actually turns out that it kind of reaffirms my own experience and approach to dealing with the pandemic thing. So I'm actually a research biologist, and you guys know some biology. You all know some biology down there, all the way from nervous system function to viral replication. That was all really but from my own standpoint, you know, being a human being, I also have fear and anxiety around the whole virus thing. And actually, because I know how it works, it's even scarier in some regards. One of the things I'm doing as part of my job is I'm actually writing a grant on coronavirus and how to treat it. And so, and I read like the 5th precept today, and it's about, taking in nutriments. And so here I'm working on something that invokes fear sometimes, and I need break from that sometimes too, because I just need to back off of that for a while, just in the same way I back off of, watching CNN for 8 hours and just get some rest, and so, I need the time for rest and being grounded. I'm not in danger of contracting the virus right now because I'm sitting in a nice room and there's nobody here. But my mind can create plenty of danger.
Mhm.
I'll just briefly share really quickly a whole process I went through, and it was about activity. One of my responses to anxiety and fear is just find something to do as a distraction, as a way to engage in aversion, basically. Occupy myself with something so I don't have to think about the danger. But the problem is I'm still aware of the danger, so I found myself being really anxious while doing trivial little things, precisely because the reason for doing that was to avoid anxiety. So I kind of talked to some other friends, Buddhists in Connecticut, and figured out what was going on, and then just did a lot of meditation and relaxation, and that really helped. And so I'll also share just quickly, one of the things I've been doing, I also, when I'm not doing science, I really have gotten into doing art, just visual art, abstract oil painting. And for a while I was doing that as an escape from anxiety, and it wasn't turning out really well. And then I just kind of stopped and said, like this whole weekend, not turning on the TV set, not going to engage in thinking about writing my scary grant, and then I've been able to return to that activity, but instead of out of aversion and fear, just as something I want to do. And I can tell you even though it looks the same, putting paint on a canvas, there's a big difference between doing that as a distraction versus doing that out of a space of kind of tranquility and involvement and mindfulness. It looks the same. If somebody were to jump in there and take a picture of it, it would look exactly the same under anxiety as versus out of freedom. But I can tell you the experience is quite different. So anyway, this whole discussion has kind of gelled or coalesced the same process that I kind of had to arrive at through experience. So it's really helpful to have that all validated and confirmed. So I want to thank everybody, and Ted bowing out.
Thank you, Ted.
Hi, Maeve bowing in. Hi, thank you so much. So wonderful to see all of you and to hear your words of wisdom. Really helpful on Saturday. Thanks. So, it was so funny. I remember when my children were younger and they were playing in the yard, and this is when everybody was afraid of them getting ticks, which seems so minor now, and that these ticks, and you have to check them every day and look for these ticks. And so the kids were running around, and I had one son who every time would come in, like if I looked at him once, he would have 3 or 4 ticks on him, and it would freak me out. I'd be like, he's going to get Lyme, so worried, because it's not just me controlling it. It's like when you're children, you feel like something's going to happen to them. It often makes you so afraid, And then I remembered reading the story about the Buddha, and so I'm going to get the details incorrect because my brain is foggy. But and there was, do you remember he was on retreat, and there was a hut that nobody wanted to go in because there was a large venomous snake in it, and the Buddha said, I'll take that hut. And then he sat up all night in meditation. And then, of course, in the morning, the snake arises and is up in full regalia, sort of looking at him, huge and overpowering. And the Buddha looked over at the snake and he thought, I'm going to love this snake unconditionally. I'm not going to hold judgment. I'm not going to be afraid. I'm going to love the snake unconditionally. The snake rose up, sort of looked at the Buddha, went back to the floor, and then slithered away. And it was always such a teaching to me. And after that, I would always say, I love these ticks unconditionally. That would be part of my practice, that, I love them. They're just trying to exist. And the same thing has come up recently. I have been faced with the virus in multiple ways, like all of you have. And, part of me is like, in order to be with my fear, there's like this intention of life, this acceptance that this virus too, as we were talking about, wants to live and to exist as I want to live and exist, and the virus, we don't know a whole lot about it, and it's creating a lot of fear and reactions in all of us. But sometimes I have to, step back and remember the teachings. And one of them too is like, what comes between you and sort of your peaceful consciousness? And often it is all that we're talking about. For me, it's like that fear, how can I love this virus unconditionally, which is weird to say, and not something that I have gotten to. But I know the release that I felt when I decided to relax my fears about the possibilities, about what I don't know, about going too far ahead of myself or too far behind myself, or trying to control, or trying to overmanage or micromanage. The minute I step into that spot, I'm lost, and I'm afraid, and I'm small, and I'm detached, and I forget that it is impermanent, and I forget that that contributes to my suffering, like all of you spoke about today, and that my ignorance about the virus has caused more fear. And my, consumption, as you were talking about too, is to find good information rather than tons and tons and tons of bad or mediocre information, and to try to come to that place of facing my fears in a new way. Thank you for everything. Thanks for holding the Sangha meeting.
Thank you, Maeve.
Dijon Banyan from Texas Sangha. Thanks for all the talks and sharings. It's good to see all of you of Sangha. I think this idea, I get from Michelle Hartel's in one of her posts, that when something big happened like this pandemic, it signals that something went wrong. For example, the nature of the universe is balance. So when things are out of balance, things happen. You got too hot, too cold, it creates tornadoes to balance the hotness and coldness regions out. Like a few years ago, we got a really huge tsunami. That is a signal that something out of balance, but regional. This time, the scope is global. That means it says that something really, the Mother Earth saying something that's really wrong globally. Time out. You need to time out things. So that's why all of us have a chance to sit down, really evaluate our situations and see. I think each person have his or her own perspective. We've been working hard, working, and basically when we try to work hard like that, we try to stay away from things we don't want to deal with, that aversion way. So in the past couple of weeks when I staying home, I said, oh my God, there's so many wrongs inside the house that I didn't taken care of, and now they got all the time to take care of all those things that are around the house. And it starts kind of balance your life out between work and your personal life at home and the relationship within members of family also. So I think this is kind of a Mother Earth wake-up calls for all of us, the whole world. Fortunately, we're studying the Dharma. We're familiar with, like Theo said, the theory about impermanence, about emptiness. So we have a better equipped to be able to deal with this situation. And hopefully, through that knowledge, we can help, people around us trying to get through this difficult time. Another thought I have similar with May is that what I'm thinking is back in my childhood, when we have like tapeworms in our system, we have special herbal medicine to eat. Those medicine don't kill the worms. It lures the worm through the digestive system and going out. So in all the recent Western medicines, whatever harmful to us, we try to kill them. So I was thinking, what happened if we start thinking about what I would call compassion medicine, create something that whatever virus, whatever attack us, can live coexisting, and then, we don't have any of those issues anymore. It's just a thought. I don't know if anybody in that area can develop something like that. John buying out.
Thank you, John.
This is Sylvia from Texas, bowing in. Thank you to Miami, Sangha, and everybody that participated. I really appreciate the chance to have a chance to meet everybody virtually. I just finished 1 year with the Texas Sangha, and I've learned a lot. Even though I'm a Buddhist all my life, sharing the thoughts for the Sangha, really, I get deep in my understanding of what Buddhism is about. And going through this COVID-19 period, what I find out is that in the last few years, my life was so busy that I worked and take care of family that I've forgotten who I am. I never take time for myself. So things are not really, I really don't appreciate anything. I just get up in the morning, I work, and then there's so many tasks to be done, and then I'm exhausted. That I go to sleep at night. The same thing happens the next day. This happened, and the first thing I did was like everybody else, I glued myself to TV, and then just watch, and I count everybody's sick, how many count, how many people get okay. My son lives in New York, that's really worrying me, and anyway, he's okay. He said he had the virus. I don't know yet or not. He's claiming he did. So he's not wearing masks or anything. I can't, he's 27, I can't control him. But then what I've learned from this, because I kind of understand a little bit more about Buddhism and compassion and try to look at things very positively, is that for the first time about 4 days ago, after all the news, I decided to shut it down. I can't do it anymore. I think watching all the news actually depressed me more and make the virus stronger. And so I don't want to give the strength of the virus to do that. So I decided to call friends and just the elderly people who volunteer at the temple and check on them. And then I got bored after I talked to everybody. Nobody wanted to talk to me anymore because they are Sylvia again. So then I decided to work on my garden. And just like anything else, I find myself do more than necessary. I'm not balancing my life, even right now. So I'm outside early in the morning until 2, which in Houston is like 100 degrees, very hot. My son stays at home with me. He told me, "Mom, you're killing yourself." And but then last week, for the first time, the weather cooled down, and I was able to sit in my garden for the first time and understanding what peace is. I just sat there I'm not trying meditating because I would go to, I just want to enjoy it. I heard the birds sang, the breeze, the weather's cool, and I just sat there. I did nothing. I thought about nothing. I just sat there for 3 hours. And it was the most wonderful 3 hours of my life for the past few years because I actually appreciate life itself. I listen to the birds. I look at the trees and see the leaf moving and all the living things around me. And I realize that this is what Buddhism is about. It's about peace. It's about appreciating every day, every minute of your life. And now, trying to go through this COVID-19, I appreciate life more. Every second, every time I talk to somebody, I focus on them more. Whether I do a task, whether I'm listening to TV, even right now, I pay attention to everything that is said because nobody is promised tomorrow. So to have this opportunity to share my thoughts and to listen to everybody's thoughts is so profound to me because even though we live through this time right now, it's a new world. And instead of looking at it negatively, because of the year of learned Buddhism, and thank you to all my Sangha in Texas, it really helped me to listen to all my stories all the time. And it's an eye-opener. And now I have an opportunity to join the national Sangha and listen to more sharing. I realize that the path I'm taking right now is the right one for me. And I'm hoping that it will lead me to find eternal peace one day. Like the 3 hours I had a few days ago, we become 4 or 5, and eventually it will become daily for me. So I just want to say thank you very much. And it's actually this kind of, just like what John said, everybody's so busy, nobody spends time with the family anymore. My son is upstairs, I had to text him. I came and talked to him. So now he's home, they're actually cooking for me, and actually sat down and have dinner together and have a conversation. Things that we haven't done in a few years. And I said, well, he lives with me. Why is it I don't have this time? It's that we are so busy with technology, with everything. We find ways to do things efficiently, so we have more time to do more things that are not efficiently. So at the end, we do so many things that actually didn't end up to be anything. At the end of the day, I'm so exhausted. I didn't know what I get. There's no quality of life. So the past week or so, suddenly I finally found quality of life for me again. And that is priceless to me. Even though everybody's going through the negativity, where people dying is very sad. I have friends that are sick. However, for me, selfishly saying, I found peace. And so that's what I want to share, is that there is a light at the tunnel, and that's how we look at things can change everything. I could choose look at this negatively and get depressed and emotional, which at the beginning, that's what I did. But now I make time to go to my backyard and sat there and just listen to the birds. And I time myself because I have other things to do. I put on my timer on my phone and said 30 minutes. I absolutely do nothing except sat in my yard. And it's like meditation, I guess. But I'm actually listening to living things around me. So again, I just want to share that thought with you. And thank you for everything that everybody doing and give me this opportunity to participate. Sylvia, I'll bow now.
Thank you, Sylvia.
This is Nicole, bowing in from Miami. And it's really nice to meet everybody from all the different sanghas. And I'd like to speak to my experience with fear and sort of noticing like when I'm keeping myself in a cycle of fear versus when I'm keeping myself in a cycle of peace. And you know, it's becoming more and more apparent to me that, you know, when I sort of bring fear into my body, or I allow fear to come into my body, it kind of creates this chaotic energy, like within my house, and something breaks, or I'm really seeing like the immediate effects of that sort of chaotic, gross energy, like dense energy. And I'm also realizing that, you know, no matter what you do, if you're eating healthy or if you're like protecting yourself, and if you're not seeing anybody, if you remain in this state of fear constantly, it really doesn't make a difference. Like it'll just keep you unhealthy. It'll keep you fearing other people. And it's just, it hasn't been a good state of mind. So I'm actually feeling a lot better since the beginning of the pandemic. And yeah, I just wanted to share that. So
Thank you, Nicole.
Hey, this is Rudy from Miami, but bowing in from New Haven. I wanted to just share a little bit about, I've been meditating now for a few years under DTO, who is a mentor and director of mine, and we were in a company together. And I've noticed that the meditation always changes for me depending on like where I am in my life and what I'm going through. And sometimes it gets more difficult to sit down and have a schedule or to do to sit for as long as I want to. However, the last almost 3 months now, because I sheltered in place the first week of March up here in New Haven. So yeah, going on 3 months now. I have to say has been the hardest for me to sit. And I don't know if it was just because I had enough time or if it was just like a lot of things were coming up as I was meditating. And it was something that I actually spoke to Teo about, where I felt that I would sit for 40 minutes but the thoughts were coming in and it was like hard for me to stay still. And a lot of negative thoughts were coming in, more than like in a ridiculous amount that I had never experienced before. And so I felt like I was like wasting my meditation or wasting the time in a way, because I was like, I spent 40 minutes swiping like negative thoughts out of the way or out of my body. And so I felt as if I was like failing in a way, or not. And I was just like, why am I not being able to control this? Why is this happening? You know, Teo brought up the metaphor of the mud and the lotus, and how he pointed that out to me, how that sometimes sitting can be the mud, you know, and that you have to like sit through the mud to get to the lotus. And it was and I understood that and I knew that, but it was very hard for me to understand it as I was like going through it, or accept that in a way, because I was like, yeah, but it's been happening for a really long time. And I have to say that maybe 2 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago, I noticed the shift, and where I was back to, I don't want to say a normal practice, but I noticed the shift, that it was becoming easier for me to sit without so many of these thoughts coming in. Yeah, and I don't know. I just want to say that I just want to share that again, it reminded me about how things will pass, and how there is that, you know, the impermanence came up about, and even, you know, the talk of this coronavirus or the pandemic or the global situation that we're all going through right now. how it might seem muddy and how it might it might last 2 months, it might last 3 months, it might last it might last a year or a year and a half. However, that there's another side to this, right? And there's another side to to everything. And so that personal experience just reminded me that just reminded me of that, and I just wanted to share that. That's all. Thank you. It's nice to see everybody as well.
Thank you, Rudy. Noble Silence, I think your speaker may be off.
Okay. Yes. I think so. The meditation, sometimes people have a very wrong perception. That is no bad meditation. That's not bad sitting. Anything you do about meditation is okay. The bad meditation is when you not doing meditation. When you don't sit down, that is a bad meditation. There is a history from Buddha. He crossed the small stream, the small river. The Sangha crossed the river. And after 2 or 3 blocks after they cross, Buddha say to his attendant, please get my bowl and get back and bring me water, the tree, because I'm thirsty. Ananda get the bowl from Buddha and when they get the water, in that time, some cow crossed the stream and made the water dirty because they crossed. So Ananda go back with some water. I said, Lord, I can bring the water because the cow crossed the stream and made the water dirty. So Buddha said, okay, go back and sit down and wait. So Ananda go back and sit down. In few minutes, the water starts settled and the dirt go away and the water become clear again. So that meaning meditation take time because it's not only mind, it's not only body, mind. You have to be awareness, to be oneness, body and mind. So you say, I sit down, I cannot concentrate, I have bad thought. That is meditation. If you awareness of that, you do meditation. That is important to know about that. People believe, oh, good meditation is sit down and be relaxing. Nobody, every day, can get the mind relaxing. So anything cross your mind, any sensation you noted, that is meditation.
Thank you, Noble Silence.
Let me, yes.
Hi. Jeff bowing in from Connecticut. So I would just like to thank all those who shared the teachings and then shared from their recent experience. It's very nice to see everyone. Kind of echo what Dave had said. It's so nice to get together as a Sangha like this more often, even though it is a little strange with the computer. It's still so good to see people that I used to only see every April. To see them now maybe twice a month, it's very nice, and I feel nourished by by the Sangha presence. So there is more I could share, but I think much has already been said about anxiety and the usefulness of the practice in helping to deal with that, helping to limit what is coming into us, perhaps with a little less CNN, a little less news. So the practice has been a great gift. So the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So thank you all for being there.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. Lena Baunin, I just want to remind us of the time. We have about 8 minutes before 12. Elena bowing out.
Thank you, Elena. I was just about to say yes, less CNN and more sitting and looking at trees, like Sylvia.
John Bai Yen. Let me share some of the experience in meditation. I'm going to throw some analogy out here. If you sit in a room where there are loud musics, then you don't hear people around you talking. So until the music's gone, then you would hear people talking, but you won't hear any of the lower noise level until all people stop talking, and then you kind of hear a very low noise level. The same thing with our mind. When our mind are busy with so many things, there are other things that we don't really notice. So when we have time to sit down, kind of all the high noise level in our mind kind of going away, we start seeing another wave of lower net level kind of mind noises where we have to notice and gradually have to deal with it. Our mind and our nature have an amazing ability to adapt, just like our eyes. When you go into a real bright room, after a while, your eyes start adjusting and you start seeing things normal again. The same thing with our mind. Once you see those more noise level, those thoughts appearing, and you'll be able to recognize being to deal with them, those start going away, and you start seeing a more minute thought. Those are things that are, I call it skeleton in the closets. It sits bite in your subconscious mind, and then when everything start going quiet, those start arising and you start seeing them, and you keep to have to deal with it until all what you have, the seeds in your mind go away, and then you be in a deep meditation state, and you really feel very, very relaxing and joy. So I'm buying out.
Thank you, John.